Okay, now we know which chords fit into which keys. Quick review. You find the notes in the major scale, you assign the formula. Little letters mean minor chords, big letters mean major chords. Little circle, don't worry about it yet. There will come a time when you're playing all your chords down here, and you want to try playing some sweet chords up here. And you might be thinking, I don't know any of those chords, but guess what? You do. What? We learned that a major chord is made up of 3 notes. The first note, the third note, and the 5th note of the major scale. So in the case of C major, here is the 1, 3, 5. So it's C, E, and G. And on the uke, here we have C, E, and G. And if you remember, we added an additional C up here and made it into a sweet 4-note chord. So if we do something similar on the piano, we can see that here, and add another C up here, we still get a C major chord, but now it's a 4-note chord. But what if instead of adding this C, we take this C and we just move it there? So for example, this C major chord, we move this note over here and we get this C major chord. So now we have a chord that looks like this, but it's still a C major chord because it still has a C, an E, and a G. When you play the chord like that, it's called an inversion. Major and minor chords are called triads because they have 3 notes. 3, tri, duh. So each triad has 3 shapes on the piano. This one is called root position because the root note is on the bottom. The root is just a fancy way of saying what note the chord is named after. So in the C major chord, the C is the root, the E is the 3rd, and the G is the 5th. So you have root position, then you have the first inversion that we just played, which has the E on the bottom. If we move this E up here, we get a chord that looks like this. That's called the second inversion because we have the G on the bottom. After that, if we move this G up here, we have the same root position, just an octave higher. So all 3 of those are C major chords. And you can hear how they all sound the same. Now let's try that on the ukulele. Down here we have G, C, and E. So this C chord down here with the 3 open strings is the second inversion. So we're going to come across some similar questions as when we first started learning major chords on the ukulele. First off, this is the second inversion and it's lower than the root position in the first inversion. There is no starting point for chords. It's not like the root position is down here and the inversions go up the neck. The point is, an inversion of a chord is not like a less official version of the chord. They all pretty much mean the same thing. So if a song says to play a C chord, you can play this inversion, or this inversion, or this inversion. It really doesn't matter. Another problem we come across on the ukulele, again, is that all these chords have 3 notes and our ukulele has 4 strings. Before, we just repeated one of those notes on the 4th string. So for example, this C in root position, we can just add that C up here, and we got a 4-string version of the C major. But if we're playing this inversion down here, we can add that same C note, and again we have a 4-note version of a C major chord. But then we can do something kind of sneaky. What if we move this note, which was C, and we move it up to here, which is E? So both of those notes are C major chords because they're only using a C, an E, and a G. You wouldn't call them different inversions because an inversion has to do with which note is on the bottom. What you do call those are voicings. I'm gonna be honest with you, all the stuff I just explained about inversions is really not that important on the ukulele. Sorry. The inversion is really only telling you which note is in the bass. So for example, in the root position, the C is in the bass. In the first inversion, the E is in the bass. And in the second inversion, the G is in the bass. But what if I play the C here, the G here, and the E here? That's not one of the standard inversions we just talked about, but it is still a C major chord. Any combination of C, E, and G will always be a C major chord. Which C, E, and G you choose is what makes it a different voicing. On a piano, weird voicings like that don't really make sense because your hand really can't stretch that far. So it makes more sense to just play them like this. But on a ukulele, there are plenty of different ways to play the same chords without having to move your hand that much. Like an A chord can look like this, or it can look like this, or it can look like this. And there are plenty more ways to play an A major chord up the neck. All you need to do is find those 3 notes that make up the chord and put them in any combination you want. If you notice here on the right side, it always contains the same 3 notes, A, C sharp, E. You'll eventually figure out some common shapes like this. The nice thing about a ukulele and even a guitar, which separates it from the piano, is that if you get a chord like this, which is a C major, and you just move everything up 1, you get a C sharp major. 1 more and you get a D, D sharp, E, and that goes up and down the neck. But if you move down, what you'll notice is, watch, this is C, so that means this is B, this is A sharp, and then these don't have anywhere else to go, so they become open, and that is an A. And that's a chord you might be familiar with. Like if we're playing an open G and we wanted to move up one, this open string would have to also move up one, so it would become there, and we would still have a major chord, but now it's a G sharp, A sharp. That's kind of a weird, uncomfortable chord to play, but it gives you the idea that an open string can just move up and the chord continues. You'll definitely start to recognize the common shapes over time. So what are the benefits of different voicings? If I come across a song and it says to play an A, which A should I play? The answer is you can play any A you want. But usually if you're playing around here, you'll want all of your chords to be around here. If you're playing up here, you want all of your chords to be up here. So let's say you're playing in the key of A and you want to play the 1, 4, 5 progression. So that would be A major, D major, E major. You could play A, D, E. There's a D down here, but that would be kind of weird to play. So choosing a voicing, most of the time what you're doing is just keeping the chords near each other. So why would you play the chord progression up here versus playing it down here? That's really just a matter of taste. Up here it's a little brighter. And down here it's a little more open. There are some times when you will look up a song and it will try to tell you which voicings to play. You'll probably at some point come across a chord that has a slash after it, like an A/E means an A major chord but with an E in the bass. So on the piano, here's an A chord, and you would play it with the E in the bass, so you would move the E down here, and that's the second inversion of A. But I really, really hate that. I hate it because it's trying to tell you how the original artist played the song so that you can play it exactly like that, but I usually would rather just make the song my own, and most of the time it's referring to how it was played on the guitar or on the piano, so it really doesn't even apply to the ukulele. So I pretty much always just ignore the slash and play the chord however I feel like playing it. So now when you look up a song, you're not going to be forced to play them down here like some kind of lame ass. You're like, fuck that, I'm playing it up here. And remember, you can strum it fast. You can finger pick it. Don't ever let a website tell you how to play a song. Okay, good luck, have fun, go practice.